Andy Nowicki, AltRightNovelist.com. Wanted to continue with my discussion of Hamlet from a MGTOW perspective, which I think is a unique way of reflecting upon Hamlet, a unique lens through which to view the character of Hamlet and the play of Hamlet. It isn't to say that Hamlet is reducible to MGTOW, or that MGTOW is somehow the only thing that Hamlet is about. It's not to be reductive in one's interpretation of this famous and famously complicated play that's about so many things. But it is interesting to reflect upon the character of Hamlet as a sort of proto-MGTOW figure in certain ways. Hamlet is someone who is at one time, as I said in the last video, he is at one time a romantic lead in the play. He is, in his way, a kind of Romeo. He even writes love poetry, which is what Polonius reads to Claudius in Act 2, Scene 1, to try to convince the latter, Claudius, the king, the usurping king, the murderous king, the bad guy in the play, whom Polonius is trying to get in good with. He tells him of how Hamlet has written this love poetry, and he reads it out loud. Doubt that the stars are fire, but never doubt my love, etc. And this is all done, again, because Hamlet did at one time love Ophelia, it seems. And maybe he always does love her. But at one time it seems like he was in what today we would call a romantic relationship, but of course during the time of the play, the time when the play was written, and also of course the time in which the play is set, which is much further in the past, they didn't really have things called romantic relationships. There was courtship, which was expected to go somewhere, namely to marriage, ultimately. And so Hamlet was courting Ophelia, it seems, at some point in the play. Now, what's interesting is we never hear about this from Hamlet's perspective. We only hear that it's going on, that it has been going on. We hear about it, first of all, through Ophelia, when in the latter part of Act 1, I can't remember which scene it is right now. It might be scene 4 or scene 5. In any case, I think it's just before the scene where Hamlet meets and speaks with the ghost of his father. But in this scene, Polonius sternly instructs Ophelia to reject Hamlet's advances, to return all of his keepsakes, and so forth. And Ophelia is protesting that Hamlet's intentions are noble, and she's speaking out for him, in favor of him. She clearly seems to be fond of him, clearly seems to be fond of the attention that he gives her, but she's ultimately obedient to her father's wishes. But my point is, in any case, we wouldn't know anything about Hamlet and Ophelia if not for, first of all, Ophelia talking about it in Act 1, and then later in Act 2, after Hamlet rushes up to Ophelia, grabs her by the arm, gives her a look, and then vanishes. Then we find out more from Polonius, that Polonius is saying it must be because of Ophelia. Polonius is just so clueless. He doesn't know anything about what's really going on. He doesn't know anything about all the intrigue that took place. He probably didn't even reflect upon anything. When it all went down, which was a couple months before the play was set, when King Hamlet died mysteriously, and it was said that he was bitten by a serpent while sleeping in the garden. That was the story that was given. But he was actually murdered. He was actually poisoned by his brother, who then took over the throne and married his wife. And this all happened again this all happened, a couple months before the action in the play. But Polonius, all through this whole thing, just doesn't care, doesn't think about it, doesn't mean anything to him. He just wants to get in good with the king. He's just a social climber. So in Act 2, he tells Ophelia to come with him to tell the king about how Hamlet has been acting, and believing that the reason for his behavior is because of Ophelia turning him down, rejecting him. So Polonius is ultimately shallow and lacks insight, because the real thing going on in the play, what Hamlet is ultimately concerned with, is the ghost, what the ghost has told him, what the ghost has revealed to him, and where he should take things from here, what he ought to do with this information. If it is true, he finds himself wondering whether it's actually the case that his uncle murdered his father, whether the ghost could be some deceiving spirit trying to get him to take action that he shouldn't take. He wants to know for sure, Hamlet does, and that's why he stages this play within a play ambush in Act 3, where he puts on a play in which a king is murdered by his brother, who then takes over the throne and marries the queen. And it's Hamlet's idea that by staging this play, he'll find out the truth, because if the king reacts, if Claudius reacts in a way that gives away the fact that he knows that this play is reflecting his actual behavior in life, he won't be able to hide it, and Hamlet will know the truth. This is what's really going on in Hamlet's mind. This, and also anger at his mother, just frothing anger at his mother. And I've talked about this in a previous video. That really is the disillusioning thing. What disillusioned Hamlet the most was seeing his mother betray his father's memory in this way. And that's another MGTOW element of this play. It's another way in which this play, Hamlet, is, well, I don't want to say it's anti-feminist, because I don't even think it's not, Shakespeare wasn't there wasn't any feminist movement at the time that Shakespeare was responding to. But the play does show that a woman can be how should we put it? Can be devious, can be deceitful, can be treasonous. She is capable, your own mother, finding out that your own mother is capable of basically whoring herself out. And worse than that, showing no respect for the memory of the man who took care of her, who loved her, who would have done anything to protect her. But because she was bored, or because, I don't know, he didn't pick up enough around the house. It can't be for his money, because he's the bloody king of Denmark. He's got plenty of resources. But she must have just gotten bored with him. She must have just found him wanting in some way. She liked him. She thought he was romantic, and she was really into being the queen for a little while in the early years of their relationship. But then she had Hamlet, young Hamlet, and she got a little bored, a little restless with just being a mom all the time, and wanted to recapture the years of her life that she'd missed out on. And then there's this dashing, handsome Claudius, the brother of her husband. So Claudius comes around, and he's got a silver tongue, and he, is makes sure to chat with her and to find occasion to, sort of just pat her arm or pat her shoulder, maybe grab her by the hand and say, "Oh, I just find you just incredibly compelling as a species of womanhood." But I don't mean that in any way. I'm not trying to, do anything improper here. Who knows what Claudius did, what kind of play that he made. Or maybe she was the one who made the play at Claudius. Maybe she was the one who initiated things. Who knows? Something must have happened between Gertrude, the queen, and Claudius, the brother of the rightful king. Something must have been going on before King Hamlet's death. There must have been some, at least, flirtation afoot. Because, as Hamlet points out so scornfully, with such venom, with such anger, frailty thy name is woman. What Hamlet points out is that they married so soon, so incredibly soon after the death of King Hamlet. Hamlet says, "But 2 months dead. Nay, not so much, not 2. So it does leave one to wonder, how did things get started? When and then how did things get started, and what exactly happened? Who made the first move? In any case, Hamlet is enraged at his mother's faithlessness. Enraged at it. Much more so, I think, than he's angry with Claudius. Claudius, of course, killed his father. So I'm not saying he thinks well of Claudius or isn't angry with Claudius. Later on in the play, he says, of course, famously enough, "From this day forth my thoughts be bloody or be nothing worth." And I think we'll come to that soliloquy later, because that's an interesting speech that Hamlet delivers in Act 4 when he sees this army about to fight to give their lives for something that's not really all that important, that really is negligible, the stretch of land that doesn't really mean much to anybody. But they're willing to go for it. They have the readiness, as Hamlet calls it. The readiness is all. And Hamlet has been dithering around, he feels. And he wants to, at this point, he thinks to himself, I've really got to get this done here. I've got to get my revenge. I've got to get the revenge that I was assigned to give by my father. I've got to take down this usurper, this man who killed my father. So he's angry with Claudius, but I think the big animating force in Hamlet, and it's what people would today maybe call misogynistic, but I don't think it's misogynistic. I think it's motivated by an accurate observation of what has happened. Now, is Gertrude all women? No, of course not. Would all women do what she did? No, of course not. But it still is very disillusioning to see your mother do something like that. And this is, without any of the issue of the murder that took place, which Hamlet doesn't even know when he expresses his outrage at his mother, he doesn't even know at that point anything about the murder, that the murder happened. He thought his father just died. You know, he believed the official story about his father's death. The official story, as we would say today in conspiracy circles. He doesn't know the truth yet. He hasn't been red-pilled yet by the ghost. So, I guess I kind of went around in a circuitous fashion. Hope I was at least somewhat semi-coherent in what I was saying. But I do think it's very interesting that in the play Hamlet, Hamlet does not seem that concerned with Ophelia, with what's going on with Ophelia. With Ophelia dumping him, essentially. When she's there, when she appears, he engages her, and he says some things to her. He makes some very sharp, rebuking comments towards her. And then later on, during the play within the play sequence, when Hamlet is in his full-on manic, antic disposition mode, he says a lot of things to Ophelia that are really very off-color. Blue, as we would say today. He cracks some dirty jokes at her expense. But he's just being obnoxious all around. So it's not like he's targeting her really all that much. And after the play is over, he doesn't talk about her. He only talks about what he discovered, when it turns out that his plan works, that Claudius does have an emotional response to the play within the play. But again, nothing about Ophelia. Interesting.
Shalom.
Hey.